My name is Kristen. I'm standing in the middle of a shattered family gathering, the air thick with tension and betrayal. The once harmonious Sunday lunch at Grandma Eleanor's farmhouse has turned into a battlefield. It all started at my cousin Lily's wedding in Pinewood, a small town where everyone knows everyone else's business. I'd always been made to feel like an outsider in my family. My mother, Sarah, was a strict and controlling woman. She constantly reminded me how lucky I was to be adopted. I was 26 when I believed this wholeheartedly. I grew up in a small house on Elm Street. My older brother, Ethan, who is 29, got all the privileges. He had the bigger room, the first car, and a college fund. I, on the other hand, had a small bed in a corner room and a clear sense that I was second class. When I was 14, I dared to ask my mother about my birth parents. She broke down in tears, sobbing that I was hurting her. My father, Robert, came home and scolded me, asking what I'd done. After that, I never asked again. I put myself through university, working part-time jobs, and living on ramen noodles. I graduated with a degree in genetic research and got a job at the local hospital, earning a starting salary of $72,000. I was good at my job, running DNA tests and confirming people's worst fears. But I never thought to run my own test. 6 months before the wedding, Grandma Eleanor, who is 80 years old and the matriarch of the family, called a family dinner to announce her estate plan. She owned a large piece of land worth about $400,000. Ethan would get a large portion and Lily, my cousin, would get a smaller one. My name was not mentioned. When I asked about myself, she simply said, "The land stays in the bloodline, dear." Uncle Henry, my father's younger brother, was different. He was a 52-year-old mechanic who had a small shop on Maple Road. He was the one who always showed up for me. When I was 10, he gave me a small silver locket with the letter K engraved inside. My mother didn't even say thank you when he gave it to me. 3 months before the wedding, my father had a heart attack at work. I was at the hospital when he was brought in. When my mother arrived, the first thing she said to the nurse was, "She's not next of kin. She's adopted. I make the medical decisions." It was a cruel reminder of my place in the family. That night, my boyfriend, Ryan, a 34-year-old software engineer, asked me if I'd ever seen my adoption papers. I realized I hadn't. The wedding was a beautiful event. Lily was marrying Tom, and it was held at the local church, Grandma Eleanor's church. But it was also the night that changed everything. Aunt Grace, Uncle Henry's wife, had a few too many glasses of wine. As she passed by my table, she stopped and looked at me. "You know you look exactly like Uncle Henry, right?" she whispered. I laughed it off at first, but something inside me started to stir. That night, I ordered a DNA test online. It cost $99, and I hit purchase at midnight. The next Monday, the test kit arrived. I swabbed my cheek and sent it off. As I waited for the results, strange things started to happen. My mother started acting oddly. She called me to check in, which was very unusual. Ethan texted me that she was cleaning out the hall closet, and Grandma Eleanor invited me to Sunday lunch, something she rarely did. 6 days later, I got the results. I sat at my kitchen table, hands shaking, as I logged in to see the results. My DNA showed that Uncle Henry was my biological father. I wasn't adopted. It was all a lie. I also found out about my half-sister, Ava. She was 28 and lived in a nearby town. We connected through the DNA platform, and we talked on the phone for hours. She'd always been told that her father left before she was born. I went to my parents' house to look for my adoption papers. In the hall closet, on the top shelf, I found a manila envelope. Inside, there was no adoption paperwork. Instead, there was a birth certificate with my mother's name and a blank father's line, and a letter from Grandma Eleanor dated when I was 6 months old. The letter instructed my mother to tell everyone I was adopted and to keep Uncle Henry away from me in public. I confronted Uncle Henry at his shop. He broke down and told me the whole story. It was an affair that happened when my father was away on a long-term work assignment. Grandma Eleanor found out and threatened to cut him off from the family if he claimed me. I gave him until the next Sunday to tell Aunt Grace, but he didn't. So I decided to tell the whole family at the Sunday lunch. I prepared for the showdown. I printed copies of the DNA results and the letter. Ryan tried to convince me not to do it publicly, but I knew they'd lied publicly for so long that the truth deserved the same audience. On Sunday, I arrived at Grandma Eleanor's house. Everyone was already seated. I sat in my usual chair, and Ryan sat behind me. After the meal, when everyone was full and settled, I stood up. I started by saying, 3 weeks ago, I took a DNA test. The room went silent. I explained that my biological father was Uncle Henry, not my father, Robert. My mother tried to deny it, saying the tests were wrong. But I was a professional in this field, and I knew the results were accurate. I showed them the DNA printout and the letter from Grandma Eleanor. Ava walked in at that moment. She introduced herself and showed her own DNA results, proving that she was also Uncle Henry's daughter. The family was in shock. My mother started crying, saying I was destroying the family. Grandma Eleanor threatened to disown me if I walked out the door. But I was done with their lies. I unclasped the locket that Uncle Henry had given me and set it on the table. I said, I spent 26 years believing I was an outsider in a family that was already mine. In the end, the family fell apart. My father moved out of the house within 2 weeks. He filed for legal separation from my mother. Uncle Henry moved out of his house, and Aunt Grace filed for divorce. Ava and I became close. We met regularly, sharing stories and supporting each other. My father, Robert, still stood by me. He said I was his daughter, DNA or not. I registered a corrected birth certificate, listing Robert as my father. Because a father is the one who was there for me, not the one who kept a secret for so long. The DNA kit that sat on my counter, a simple white box with a barcode sticker, had rearranged 3 families in just 5 days. It was a reminder that the truth, no matter how hard it is to face, will always come out. This is my story, a story of lies, betrayal, and finally, the courage to face the truth. If it reminds you that you deserve honest answers, share it with someone who needs to hear it.